Dead Rising 2 is the sequel to the hit success Dead Rising, and I'd heard many people say it's the best game in the series, and after finally playing it for myself, I must say I agree with this. Although a quick note, I'd only previously played the first Dead Rising game, which I wasn't a huge fan of, and Dead Rising 2 off the record, which was a pretty enjoyable experience, and of the three that I have played, Dead Rising 2 is currently my favorite. Where to begin? I guess gameplay. It's usually pretty fun, hacking and slashing your way through Zeds with the ginormous amount of weapons in this title, as this is kinda one of the main appeals of Dead Rising. If it's not nailed down, it can be used as a weapon, excluding health and clothing items. Baseball bat? Weapon. Giant teddy bear? Weapon. Trash can? Weapon. If it can be picked up, it's probably a weapon. And you combine items you find to create combo weapons, like a spiked baseball bat or flaming boxing gloves. And you unlock recipes, or combo cards, by either leveling up or looking at certain posters scattered around the game. And it was always pretty fun to creatively kill Zeds, like throwing a cash register at one or whacking them upside the head with a purse. Of course, there were more conventional weapons, assault rifles, pistols, knives, etc., but I found it best to save firearms for mercenaries and bosses, as they were generally harder to deal with than ordinary Zeds, which actually does bring me to the topic of enemy variety. There were several kinds of human enemies. You had the looters, who could be taken out pretty easily with something like a baseball bat, and they weren't as annoying as on Off the Record. If my memory of OTR serves me right, they'd spray paint your face and steal something from you, and you'd have to eliminate said looter to get your stuff back. But I only got spray painted once on DR2, and nothing was stolen from me, so that's a huge plus. Another type of human enemy were mercenaries. Humans with guns. Not a lot to it, although they seemed to not do as much damage as they did on OTR, and weren't as frequent, which was a relief as I personally disliked them on Off the Record. And the last type of human enemy that I remember were the psychopaths, aka bosses. There were 4 bosses in the main story, I believe, and a lot of side bosses. Now, I did have a bit of an edge because a lot of the bosses I had already dealt with before when I played OTR, so that made my sailing a bit smoother, although DR2 has a different final boss who was a bit frustrating but satisfying to overcome. But like the Postman boss or the twins, I had already faced them before and knew what to expect, so I came prepared. Now, why face the side bosses, you may be asking? Well, there's a reward of some sort. That's why, be it a sick weapon, some Zombrex, or an extra survivor, in addition to some hefty progress points. It was usually worth your time, plus there are a couple achievements related to defeating the psychopaths. And that largely covers human enemies. As for zombies, you have normal zombies who are extra aggressive at night, and at the tail end of the game, very aggressive and tougher gas zombies are added to the mix, who have extra health and can make your character, Chuck, stop what he's doing to cough, leaving him vulnerable for a couple seconds. Normal Zeds usually only drop goodies if they're holding something, and it's usually not anything super useful. A weak pistol maybe if it was a zombie cop, or maybe a zombie hand if you want to craft something with it. But every now and then they drop a queen, which, when used, kills all normal Zeds within a couple feet of you. Now, using standard weapons like a basic Bowie knife or a broadsword, killing an individual Sikh does not grant you XP. But offing Zeds with combo weapons does, and you earn XP for every 100 or so zombies you kill. I think it was something like that. Now, normal Zeds have 2 attacks. Swipe attacks, like on COD Zombies, or annoying grabs when they grapple Chuck, and you'd have to wiggle the joystick or do a quick time event to break free. And the grabbers kinda got ramped up towards the end due to the sheer amount of Zeds you had to face before the final boss, which was a little annoying, but it feels good to have came out on top. And I guess that largely wraps up combat and enemy variety. How about a somewhat related topic of the inventory? I believe you started off with 4 or 5 inventory slots, but receive an additional slot every few level ups. Changing gears, the story was really good, and I honestly expected DR2 and Off the Record to have near identical stories, just with different main characters, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I saw that the stories are much different from each other, and I honestly prefer the story of Dead Rising 2 versus OTR. In a nutshell, spoilers ahead, a pharmaceutical company started a second zombie outbreak to create more zombies to drive up demand for their medicine Zombrex, and to create something called Queens, obtainable from zombie corpses needed to create said Zombrex, and your character, Chuck Green, was framed for starting the outbreak and goes on a quest to prove his innocence, and do everything he can to help survivors and stop said pharmaceutical company once he learns the truth. Now that being said, I read this game has 6 different endings. I myself got ending A, in which Chuck succeeds his mission, but is seemingly overrun by zombies in the ending cutscene after not giving the villain TK Zombrex to stall the infection. Why did I not want to give him Zombrex, you might be wondering? Because I took that path on OTR and wanted to try something different for DR2. But, unknown to me at the time, you had to give TK Zombrex to get the clean record achievement, so I kinda regret that decision. Oh well. What is Zombrex, by the way? I mentioned it several times. Well, it's an expensive medicine that must be taken every 24 hours to prevent bitten humans from turning into zombies, and it just so happens that Chuck's daughter Katie is infected and needs said medicine, so part of the game is looking for Zombrex and bringing it to her every morning. Now, I don't really hold this against the game, but there was one line where the character Stacy said that she'd make sure Katie got her Zombrex, but you still had to go down to the safe house and give Katie her dose anyways. Just a not well thought out line. But a bit more about the safe house. It's an area that is zombie free, and you can bring survivors here for lots of progress points, and sometimes other rewards, like money. And there's a save point in the bathroom. I honestly have a feeling Duke Nukem influenced this in some way, but you use the bathroom to save in the game. Be it a urinal or a stall, that's how you do it. Just take a leak and save your progress. While of course this isn't how you save on Duke Nukem, I just have a feeling that the toilet humor and being able to use toilets and urinals influenced this decision. Graphics-wise, the game looks pretty good, with good sound effects, and it overall ran well, although got a tad bit laggy here and there when a bunch of zombies were on screen, but that's barely worth mentioning to be honest. And surprisingly, the co-op servers are still active on the 360. I know this because someone joined my game, but loading screens took forever on multiplayer. Or maybe the other guy just had bad internet. I don't know. A final note is that this game did have a competitive mode, I think, called Terror is Reality, but I can't tell you much about it because the lobbies are empty. Overall, I think Dead Rising 2 earns an 8.4 out of 10 by my grade scale. Definitely worth the $2 I paid for a used copy. And that's all from me for today, folks. I hope someone enjoyed my vid. Admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of the Dead Rising series, but this is the best of the 3 games that I have played. A somewhat similar game you might like would be Dead Island. Tell me your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks for watching. For any newcomers here, I mostly play, review, and discuss zombie and horror games, so feel free to check out some of my other content if that maybe sounds interesting. I hope everyone has a great day. Always remember that Jesus loves you all very much. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy. Peace.